James Mitchell adjusted his collar nervously as he walked through the gleaming showroom of Prestige Motors, one of London's most exclusive luxury car dealerships. The former royal guard had been saving for months to finally purchase his dream car, a sleek black Range Rover that would mark his transition from military service to civilian life. After 15 years of dedicated service protecting the royal family, James felt he deserved something special for himself. The showroom buzzed with quiet conversation and the soft hum of classical music. Expensive vehicles sat like jewels under the bright lights, each one worth more than most people's homes. James had done his research and knew exactly what he wanted. He approached the reception desk where a young woman with perfectly styled blonde hair looked up at him with a polite but distant smile. "Good afternoon," James said confidently. "I'm interested in purchasing the Range Rover Sport that's displayed in your window. I've already checked the specifications online and I'm ready to make a serious offer." The receptionist's eyes quickly scanned James from head to toe. He was wearing his best civilian clothes, a simple navy blazer, dark jeans, and clean white sneakers. While neat and presentable, his outfit clearly wasn't from the designer brands that their usual clientele wore. Her smile became slightly forced as she replied, "I see. Well, that particular vehicle starts at $85,000. Perhaps you'd be more interested in our certified pre-owned section." James felt a flash of irritation but maintained his composure. "I understand the price range. I've been planning this purchase for quite some time. Could I please speak with a sales representative about financing options and availability?" Before the receptionist could respond, a tall man in an expensive suit approached them. Richard Thornberry, the dealership's general manager, had been watching the interaction from across the showroom. His sharp eyes had immediately categorized James as someone who didn't belong among their usual customers: wealthy businessmen, celebrities, and members of high society. "Is there a problem here?" Thornberry asked, his voice carrying an unmistakable tone of authority and barely concealed disdain. James extended his hand politely. "No problem at all, sir. I'm James Mitchell, and I'm here to purchase a Range Rover Sport. I was hoping to discuss the details with one of your sales team." Thornberry ignored the offered handshake and looked James up and down with obvious disapproval. "Mr. Mitchell, I think there's been some misunderstanding. This is Prestige Motors, not a budget car lot. Our vehicles require substantial down payments and excellent credit histories. Perhaps you'd be better served at one of the more accessible dealerships down the street." The words hit James like a physical blow. Around them, other customers and staff members began to notice the commotion. James felt his face flush with embarrassment and anger, but years of military discipline kept his voice steady. "Sir, I believe you're making assumptions about my financial situation without even running a credit check or asking about my background. I have the means to purchase this vehicle." Thornberry's laugh was cold and dismissive. "Really? And what exactly do you do for work, Mr. Mitchell? Because frankly, you don't look like someone who can afford our inventory." "I recently completed 15 years of service as a Royal Guard," James replied with dignity, though his jaw was clenched tight. "I've saved carefully and I'm prepared to make a substantial down payment today." "A security guard?" Thornberry's voice carried across the showroom, drawing even more attention. "Well, that explains it. Look, Mr. Mitchell, we appreciate your service, but this isn't the place for you. Our clients are successful business people, celebrities, members of parliament. They expect a certain atmosphere when they're making such significant purchases." The humiliation was complete. Every person in the showroom was now staring at James, some with sympathy but others with the same dismissive look that Thornberry wore. The receptionist looked uncomfortable but said nothing. A couple browsing nearby luxury sedans whispered to each other while glancing in James's direction. James took a deep breath, drawing on every ounce of self-control he had learned during his years of service. "I see. Well, I certainly wouldn't want to disturb your atmosphere. Good day." He turned and walked toward the exit, his back straight and his head held high despite the burning shame he felt. Behind him, he could hear Thornberry speaking to the receptionist in a voice just loud enough for him to catch. "We really need to be more careful about who we let waste our time. This isn't a charity." As James pushed through the glass doors and stepped onto the busy London street, he felt a mixture of anger, humiliation, and determination coursing through him. The afternoon sun seemed too bright, and the sounds of traffic too loud after the hushed luxury of the dealership. He walked slowly to his modest car parked down the street, his mind racing with thoughts of what had just occurred. For 15 years, James had dedicated his life to protecting some of the most important people in the country. He had stood guard during state dinners, accompanied royal family members on official visits, and maintained the highest standards of professionalism and discretion. He had earned commendations for his service and the respect of his colleagues and superiors. Yet in the span of 10 minutes, he had been made to feel like his service meant nothing, like he was somehow lesser than the people he had spent his career protecting. As he sat in his car, James pulled out his phone and stared at the screen for a long moment. In his contacts was a number he rarely used, a direct line that had been given to him by someone very important, someone who had specifically told him to call if he ever needed anything. James had never imagined he would actually use it, but today felt different. Today he had been reminded that respect wasn't something that came automatically with civilian life. He started his car and drove home, Thornberry's dismissive words echoing in his mind. The manager had made it clear that James didn't belong in their world of privilege and luxury. Tomorrow, James decided, he would show them exactly where he did belong. That evening, James sat in his small but tidy apartment, staring out the window at the London skyline. The events at Prestige Motors replayed in his mind like a broken record. He had faced dangerous situations during his service, stood against potential threats to the royal family, and maintained his composure in the most challenging circumstances. Yet somehow the simple act of trying to buy a car had left him feeling more defeated than any mission ever had. His phone sat on the coffee table, the contact information glowing on the screen. Prince William's private number, a privilege granted to only a select few members of the Royal Guard who had demonstrated exceptional service and discretion. James had received the number 3 years ago after a particularly challenging security situation during a royal visit to Northern Ireland. The prince had personally thanked him and insisted he keep the direct contact for emergencies. James picked up his phone and set it down again several times. Was this really an emergency? Was it appropriate to contact a member of the royal family over a personal matter? The rational part of his mind said no, but the wounded part of his pride whispered that perhaps it was time to remind certain people that service to the crown still meant something. Finally, as the clock struck 9 in the evening, James made his decision. He typed out a carefully worded text message. "Your Highness, this is James Mitchell, former Royal Guard Badge 247. I hope this message finds you well. I wonder if I might have a brief word with you about a matter that reflects on the treatment of those who serve the crown. Would it be possible to speak at your convenience?" He hesitated for only a moment before pressing send. Almost immediately his phone rang. "James!" Prince William's voice was warm and familiar. "How wonderful to hear from you. I was just thinking about the Northern Ireland trip the other day. How are you adjusting to civilian life?" The genuine warmth in the prince's voice caught James off guard. After the cold dismissal he had experienced that afternoon, the sincere interest was almost overwhelming. "Very well, Your Highness, thank you for asking. I hope I'm not disturbing your evening." "Nonsense. You know you're always welcome to call. Now what's this about treatment of those who serve? Has something happened?" James took a deep breath and carefully recounted the events at Prestige Motors. He was careful to stick to the facts, avoiding emotional language while still conveying the dismissive and humiliating treatment he had received. Prince William listened without interruption, though James could sense his growing displeasure through the silence. "Let me understand this correctly," Prince William said when James finished his account. "This manager Thornberry dismissed you simply based on your appearance and background as a royal guard? He treated your service as if it were somehow inferior?" "Yes, Your Highness. I understand that luxury dealerships cater to a specific clientele, but the assumption that my service record somehow disqualified me from being a serious customer was quite difficult to accept." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Prince William spoke again, his voice carried a tone that James recognized from official functions, the voice of someone who was not just a person, but a representative of the crown itself. "James, this is absolutely unacceptable. The men and women who dedicate their lives to protecting this country and this institution deserve the highest respect, not condescension from people who mistake wealth for worth. Your service record is exemplary, and any establishment that fails to recognize that is, failing to recognize the values that this country should stand for." "James, felt a warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with vindication and everything to do with validation. Thank you, Your Highness. Your words mean more than you know. Words are fine, James, but sometimes actions speak louder. Tell me, are you still interested in purchasing that Range Rover? The question caught James by surprise. Well, yes, Your Highness, but perhaps from a different dealership. Nonsense. You were treated poorly at Prestige Motors, and they should have the opportunity to correct their mistake. Are you free tomorrow afternoon? James's heart began to race as he sensed where this conversation was heading. Yes, Your Highness, I am. Excellent. I happen to be in the market for a new vehicle myself, something suitable for both official duties and personal use. I think a visit to Prestige Motors might be exactly what I need. Shall we say 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon? The suggestion was so unexpected that James almost dropped his phone. Your Highness, surely that's not necessary. I wouldn't want to inconvenience you over a personal matter. James, let me be clear about something. The way you were treated today wasn't just a personal insult to you. It was an insult to everyone who serves this country with honor and dedication. When someone disrespects a member of the Royal Guard, they're disrespecting the very institution that person has sworn to protect. That makes it very much an official matter. Prince William's voice softened slightly. Besides, I genuinely do need a new vehicle, and I've heard good things about their Range Rover selection. It seems like excellent timing to me. James found himself smiling for the first time since the morning. If you're certain, Your Highness, I would be honored to accompany you. Perfect. I'll have my security detail coordinate with you tomorrow morning. We'll arrive together as colleagues. And James? Yes, Your Highness. Wear whatever makes you comfortable. Your character and your service record are the only qualifications that matter. After they ended the call, James sat back in his chair, his mind reeling. In less than 24 hours, he would be returning to Prestige Motors, but this time he wouldn't be alone. This time he would have with him someone who understood the true value of service and sacrifice. Tomorrow, Richard Thornberry and his staff would learn an important lesson about making assumptions and treating people with dignity and respect. James looked out his window again at the London skyline, but this time the view seemed brighter. Tomorrow would be a very interesting day indeed. The next morning dawned crisp and clear in London. James woke earlier than usual, his mind already focused on the extraordinary events that lay ahead. He had received a call at 7:30 from Detective Inspector Sarah Henley, the head of Prince William's personal protection detail, confirming the arrangements for their afternoon visit to Prestige Motors. The prince has specifically requested this be handled as an unannounced visit, Inspector Henley had explained. We'll have minimal security presence, and His Royal Highness wants to experience exactly what you experienced yesterday. He's quite determined about this, James. Now, as James prepared for the day, he carefully selected his outfit. Following Prince William's advice, he chose clothes that made him comfortable, the same navy blazer and dark jeans from the previous day, but this time he felt confident rather than nervous. Today, he wasn't just James Mitchell, former Royal Guard trying to buy a car. Today he was James Mitchell, trusted colleague of the future King of England. At 1:30 in the afternoon, James stood outside his apartment building as a modest black sedan pulled up to the curb. The driver was someone James recognized from his service days, Detective Constable Martin Wells, a member of the protection detail who had always been friendly and professional. What surprised James was seeing Prince William in the passenger seat rather than hidden behind tinted windows in the back. "James!" Prince William called out as he stepped from the car, dressed in casual but well-tailored clothes, dark jeans, a sweater, and a casual jacket. To anyone passing by, he looked like any other well-dressed London gentleman. Ready for our little shopping expedition? The informality of the moment struck James immediately. This wasn't a formal royal visit with ceremonies and protocols. This was two men going to buy cars together. Absolutely, Your Highness. Though I have to admit, I'm curious to see how this unfolds. Prince William grinned with what James could only describe as anticipation. So am I, actually. I've been thinking about your experience all night, and I've realized it's been far too long since I've had a truly authentic interaction with the business community. Usually when I visit establishments, they've had weeks to prepare. Today should be quite illuminating. As they drove through London traffic toward Prestige Motors, Prince William asked James about his plans for civilian life, his family, and his thoughts on his years of service. The conversation was easy and natural, reminding James why he had always respected this particular member of the royal family. Prince William had a gift for making people feel heard and valued, regardless of their position or background. "You know, James," Prince William said as they neared their destination, "yesterday's incident really bothered me more than I initially let on. The men and women who protect my family put their lives on the line every day. The idea that someone would treat any of you as somehow less worthy of respect goes against everything I believe about service and sacrifice." Detective Constable Wells, who had been quietly listening from the driver's seat, added, "If it helps, sir, James here once single-handedly prevented what could have been a serious security breach during the Edinburgh visit in 2019. His quick thinking and professionalism were exemplary." James felt his cheeks redden slightly. "You're both being too kind." "We're being accurate," Prince William corrected. "And I think it's important that certain people understand exactly who they dismissed so casually yesterday." As they pulled into the parking area of Prestige Motors, James felt his pulse quicken. The showroom looked exactly as it had the day before, gleaming, expensive, and intimidating. Through the large windows, he could see the same staff members moving about, probably having no idea that their afternoon was about to become very memorable. Prince William studied the building for a moment. "Impressive place. I can see why you chose to shop here. Shall we go in?" The three men walked toward the entrance, with Detective Constable Wells maintaining a discreet distance that wouldn't immediately identify him as security. As they approached the glass doors, James caught sight of Richard Thornberry through the window, speaking with the same blonde receptionist who had greeted James the day before. "That's him," James said quietly, nodding toward Thornberry, the manager who was so concerned about maintaining the proper atmosphere. Prince William's expression didn't change, but James noticed a slight tightening around his eyes. "Perfect. Let's see what kind of atmosphere they maintain for us today." As they pushed through the doors into the air-conditioned luxury of the showroom, James was struck by how different he felt compared to the previous day. Yesterday he had been nervous and hopeful, eager to please and prove himself worthy of their products. Today he felt calm and confident, knowing that he was exactly where he belonged. The same receptionist looked up as they entered, her professional smile brightening considerably when she saw Prince William's well-dressed appearance. James, walking slightly behind, received barely a glance. "Good afternoon, gentlemen," she said warmly, her attention focused entirely on Prince William. "Welcome to Prestige Motors. How may we assist you today?" Prince William smiled pleasantly. "Good afternoon. My friend and I are interested in looking at your Range Rover selection. He's particularly interested in the sport model you have displayed." The receptionist's eyes flicked briefly to James, and James could see the moment of recognition cross her face. Her smile faltered slightly, but she recovered quickly. "Of course, sir. Let me call our general manager, Mr. Thornberry. He'll be delighted to assist you personally." As she reached for her phone, James and Prince William exchanged a meaningful glance. In just a few moments, Richard Thornberry would have the opportunity to demonstrate whether his treatment of James had been an unfortunate aberration or a reflection of his true character. The stage was set for what promised to be a very enlightening encounter. Within moments, Richard Thornberry emerged from his office, adjusting his expensive tie and putting on his most charming smile. His eyes immediately locked onto Prince William, whom he clearly identified as the potential customer worth his personal attention. James might as well have been invisible. "Good afternoon, sir," Thornberry said with practiced smoothness, extending his hand toward Prince William while completely ignoring James. "Richard Thornberry, General Manager. I understand you're interested in our Range Rover collection. You've certainly come to the right place. We have the finest selection in London." Prince William shook his hand politely, but kept his expression neutral. "Thank you, Mr. Thornberry. Actually, it's my friend here who's primarily interested in making a purchase. I'm just along for support and advice." For the first time, Thornberry's gaze shifted to James, and the recognition was immediate. James watched with fascination as several emotions crossed the manager's face in rapid succession: surprise, confusion, and what looked suspiciously like panic. "Mr. Mitchell, isn't it?" Thornberry's voice had lost some of its confidence. "I didn't expect to see you again so soon." "Hello again, Mr. Thornberry," James replied calmly. "I've brought a friend along today. I hope that doesn't disturb your atmosphere too much." The pointed reference to yesterday's humiliation hit its mark. Thornberry's face flushed slightly, and James could practically see his mind racing to figure out who exactly Prince William was and why James was now accompanied by someone who clearly belonged to a different social class. Prince William stepped forward slightly, his presence commanding attention without effort. I hope there won't be any problems with assisting Mr. Mitchell today. He spoke very highly of your establishment, though he did mention some concerns about the customer service experience. Thornberry's professional smile became strained. Something about Prince William's bearing, his accent, and his quiet authority was clearly making the manager nervous, though he couldn't quite place why. Of course not, sir. We're always happy to assist serious customers. Perhaps there was some misunderstanding yesterday? Oh, I don't think there was any misunderstanding, James said pleasantly. You were quite clear about your assessment of my suitability as a customer. Something about me not looking like someone who could afford your inventory, and concerns about maintaining the proper atmosphere for your usual clientele. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Around them, other staff members and customers were beginning to take notice of the tension. Thornberry looked increasingly uncomfortable, clearly trying to balance his desire to dismiss James again with his uncertainty about the well-dressed stranger who was taking James's side. Prince William's voice remained conversational but carried an edge that James recognized from formal occasions. That's quite interesting, Mr. Thornberry. I'm curious about your criteria for determining who qualifies as a serious customer. Could you elaborate on that process? Thornberry's confident facade was cracking. Well, sir, you have to understand that in the luxury automotive business, we deal with a very exclusive clientele. We have to be discerning about where we invest our time and resources. Discerning, Prince William repeated thoughtfully. And you base this discernment on what exactly? Appearance? Profession? Background? A combination of factors, sir. It's not personal, you understand. It's simply business. James decided to press the point. So when I told you yesterday that I was a Royal Guard with 15 years of service and substantial savings, that combination of factors suggested I wasn't worth your time. The mention of Royal Guard service caused Prince William to raise an eyebrow in a way that would have been recognizable to anyone familiar with royal body language. Thornberry, however, seemed focused only on the growing awkwardness of the situation. Look, Mr. Mitchell, Thornberry said, his tone becoming defensive. Perhaps I was hasty yesterday. The luxury car business is competitive, and we have to move quickly with qualified buyers. If you're serious about a purchase, I'm sure we can work something out. The condescending phrase, work something out, clearly rankled Prince William. James could see the future king's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. Mr. Thornberry, Prince William said, his voice taking on a formal quality that commanded immediate attention. I think there's something you should understand about Mr. Mitchell's qualifications. The entire showroom seemed to quiet down. Even customers browsing at the far end of the room sensed that something significant was happening. Mr. Mitchell isn't just any Royal Guard, Prince William continued, his words carrying the weight of absolute authority. He's one of the most respected and decorated members of the Royal Protection Detail. For 15 years, he's been entrusted with the safety of the most important people in this country. He's prevented security breaches, handled classified information, and demonstrated the highest levels of integrity and professionalism. Thornberry's face was growing paler by the moment. Something about Prince William's intimate knowledge of James's service record, combined with his obvious authority and bearing, was finally beginning to dawn on him. Furthermore, Prince William continued, his voice now carrying the unmistakable tone of someone used to being obeyed. The way you treated him yesterday was not just unprofessional. It was a disgrace. You judged a man who has dedicated his life to serving this country based on nothing more than your own shallow prejudices. The realization was spreading across Thornberry's face like sunrise. The way Prince William spoke about royal protocol, his obvious familiarity with James's service record, his bearing, his accent, all the pieces were falling into place. Sir, Thornberry stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. Are you? Prince William smiled, but it wasn't a warm expression. I am someone who believes that respect should be earned through character and service, not purchased with expensive clothes. And I am someone who finds your establishment's treatment of distinguished public servants to be absolutely unacceptable. The silence in the showroom was deafening. Every eye was now focused on their group, and James could see recognition dawning on several faces as people began to realize exactly who was standing in their midst. Thornberry looked as though he might faint. The moment of recognition hit Richard Thornberry like a physical blow. His face went from pale to ashen as the full weight of his situation became clear. He was standing face to face with Prince William, heir to the throne, having just been told in no uncertain terms that his treatment of a distinguished royal guard was unacceptable. "Your Royal Highness," Thornberry whispered, his voice cracking as he attempted an awkward bow. I had no idea. Please forgive me, I never meant." Prince William held up a hand, stopping the stammering apology. Around them, the entire showroom had fallen into stunned silence. Other customers were pulling out their phones, some discreetly taking photos, others calling friends to report what they were witnessing. The staff members stood frozen, unsure whether to approach or maintain their distance. "Mr. Thornberry," Prince William said, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority, "your apologies to me are misplaced. It's Mr. Mitchell who deserves your respect and consideration. He's the one you insulted and humiliated." James watched as Thornberry turned toward him, the manager's entire demeanor transformed from yesterday's arrogant dismissal to desperate anxiety. The man who had been so quick to judge James as unworthy now looked as though his entire career was hanging in the balance. "Mr. Mitchell," Thornberry began, his hands actually trembling, "please, I sincerely apologize for yesterday. I made a terrible mistake. Your service to the crown is absolutely honorable, and I should never have questioned your qualifications as a customer." The apology, while clearly motivated by panic rather than genuine remorse, was still satisfying to hear. James maintained his composure, drawing on his years of diplomatic training. "I appreciate the apology, Mr. Thornberry," James replied calmly, "though I have to wonder if you would be offering it if circumstances were different today." Prince William nodded approvingly at James's response. "An excellent point. Mr. Thornberry, I'm curious, how many other customers have you dismissed based on similar prejudices? How many other people have you judged unworthy of your service based on their appearance or profession?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Thornberry looked around desperately as if searching for an escape route that didn't exist. Several of his staff members were watching with expressions that suggested this wasn't the first time they had witnessed such behavior from their manager. "Your Highness, our policy has always been to serve all customers with respect. Yesterday was an aberration, I assure you." "Was it?" Prince William's tone suggested he didn't believe a word of it. "Because from what Mr. Mitchell described, your behavior seemed quite practiced. The way you publicly humiliated him, the assumptions you made about his worthiness, that doesn't sound like an aberration. That sounds like a pattern." James decided to add his perspective. "Your Highness, if I may, Mr. Thornberry seemed quite comfortable with his assessment yesterday. He made it clear that people like me weren't welcome among his usual clientele of successful business people, celebrities and members of Parliament." The irony of those words was not lost on anyone present. Thornberry had unknowingly excluded someone who was personally connected to the very pinnacle of British society while boasting about his establishment's prestigious customer base. Prince William turned his attention back to Thornberry. "I see. So you've built your business model around exclusion and prejudice rather than quality service and respect for all customers." "No, Your Highness. That's not. We welcome everyone truly." "Then prove it," Prince William said firmly. "Mr. Mitchell came here yesterday as a serious customer with legitimate interest in purchasing a vehicle. He was treated shamefully. Today he's here again, still interested in the same purchase. Show me how you treat a valued customer." The challenge was unmistakable. Thornberry looked around frantically, then snapped his fingers at his sales staff. "Of course. Immediately. Mr. Mitchell, please let me personally show you our finest Range Rover Sport. We have several available, including some with custom features that I think you'll find very impressive." The transformation was almost comical. The same man who had suggested James visit more accessible dealerships was now practically falling over himself to provide royal treatment. He led them toward the showroom's crown jewel, a pristine Range Rover Sport in elegant black with premium leather interior and every available upgrade. "This particular model," Thornberry said, his sales pitch now delivered with desperate enthusiasm, "features our most advanced technology package, premium sound system, and enhanced safety features. The price is normally $95,000. but for a distinguished member of the Royal Guard, I'm authorized to offer a significant discount. James ran his hand along the vehicle's smooth exterior, appreciating both its beauty and the irony of the moment. It's beautiful. This is exactly what I was hoping to purchase yesterday. And yesterday, Prince William observed pointedly, Mr. Thornberry suggested this was beyond your means and directed you to look at used vehicles elsewhere. The reminder of his previous behavior made Thornberry wince visibly. Your Highness, I realize now how wrong I was. Mr. Mitchell, I'm prepared to offer you this vehicle at cost, $78,000, and I'll personally handle all the financing arrangements to ensure the smoothest possible transaction. James looked at Prince William, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod of approval. That's a generous offer, Mr. Thornberry, James said.
Though I have to ask, is this the same level of service and pricing you would offer to any customer, or is it specifically because of present company?
The question clearly flustered Thornberry further. Before he could answer, Prince William stepped forward. Actually, Mr. Thornberry, I think this situation calls for something more significant than just a discount on Mr. Mitchell's purchase. Prince William's words sent a visible shiver through Richard Thornberry. The manager's face, already pale with anxiety, somehow managed to become even whiter. Around them, the gathered customers and staff leaned in closer, sensing that something momentous was about to happen. Your Highness, Thornberry stammered. What did you have in mind? Prince William looked thoughtfully around the showroom, his gaze taking in the expensive vehicles, the luxurious appointments, and the staff members who were all watching with rapt attention. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone who was accustomed to making decisions that affected thousands of lives. Mr. Thornberry, yesterday you made it clear that you believe certain people are more worthy of respect than others, based purely on superficial judgments. You suggested that Mr. Mitchell, despite his 15 years of exemplary service to the Crown, was somehow beneath your usual clientele. Thornberry nodded miserably. Unable to form words, I think, Prince William continued, that this establishment needs a fundamental lesson in the values that truly matter in this country. Service, sacrifice, integrity, and honor should count for more than designer clothes and flashy bank accounts. James watched with fascination as Prince William seemed to come to a decision. Here's what's going to happen, Prince William announced, his voice now carrying the unmistakable tone of royal decree. Mr. Mitchell will receive his Range Rover Sport at no charge whatsoever. Consider it compensation for the humiliation and disrespect he endured yesterday. The gasps from around the showroom were audible. Thornberry looked as though he might collapse. Your Highness, that's a $95,000 vehicle. Our profit margins are less important than doing what's right, Prince William finished firmly. Furthermore, I want you to establish a special program for all current and former members of the Royal Guard, as well as other distinguished public servants. Military personnel, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, people who dedicate their lives to serving others, should receive the same level of respect and consideration as any other customer, regardless of their appearance or assumed financial status. James felt overwhelmed by the gesture. Not only was his humiliation being addressed, but Prince William was ensuring that other service members would never face the same treatment. Additionally, Prince William continued, clearly not finished, I want a formal apology published in the Times, acknowledging that this establishment failed to meet the standards of respect and service that should be extended to all customers, particularly those who serve the public good. Thornberry was now frantically nodding, realizing that his choice was simple: comply completely or risk the kind of public relations disaster that could destroy his business overnight. Of course. Your Highness, absolutely. Whatever you require. Prince William then turned to the gathered staff members. I also want everyone here to understand something important. The gentleman standing next to me has risked his life to protect this country and its institutions. He has undergone rigorous training, passed extensive background checks, and maintained the highest security clearances. He has stood between danger and the people he was sworn to protect, including members of my own family. The prince's voice rose slightly, ensuring everyone in the showroom could hear clearly. When you dismissed him yesterday, you weren't just insulting one man. You were insulting every person who chooses service over profit, duty over personal gain, and sacrifice over comfort. That is unacceptable in any British establishment, but particularly in one that claims to serve the elite of this society. A young saleswoman near the back of the group spoke up, her voice tentative but clear. Your Highness, many of us disagreed with how Mr. Mitchell was treated yesterday. We don't all share Mr. Thornberry's attitudes about customers. Prince William smiled at her, the first genuinely warm expression he had shown since entering the dealership. I'm very glad to hear that. True service means treating every person with dignity and respect, regardless of their background or circumstances. James stepped forward, feeling it was time for him to speak. Your Highness, while I'm deeply grateful for your intervention, I want everyone here to understand something. I didn't contact Prince William seeking revenge or special treatment. I reached out because what happened yesterday represented something larger. The idea that certain types of service are more valuable than others. That some people deserve respect while others don't. He looked around at the assembled group. Every person here has chosen to work in service. You serve customers, just as I served the crown. The difference in our uniforms doesn't change the fact that we all deserve to be treated with basic human dignity. Prince William nodded approvingly. Exactly right, James. And Mr. Thornberry, I trust this lesson will extend beyond just military and public service personnel. Every customer who walks through these doors deserves courtesy and respect, whether they're buying their first car or their 50th. Thornberry, who had remained silent during this exchange, finally found his voice. Your Highness, Mr. Mitchell, I understand completely. This has been an eye-opening experience. I give you my word that our policies and attitudes will change immediately. See that they do, Prince William replied, because I'll be checking. And if I hear of any similar incidents, not just involving service personnel but any customers, there will be consequences. As the tension in the room finally began to ease, practical matters needed to be addressed. The paperwork for James's new vehicle was completed with unprecedented speed and efficiency. Thornberry personally handled every detail, ensuring that James received not just the car itself, but extended warranties, premium service packages, and every available upgrade. When everything was finalized, James found himself holding the keys to a vehicle that represented far more than transportation. It was a symbol of vindication, of the value of service, and of the importance of treating all people with dignity. As they prepared to leave, Prince William shook hands with several staff members, each interaction reinforcing his message about respect and service. At the door, he turned back to address the entire room one final time. Remember, the measure of any establishment isn't the wealth of its customers, but the character it demonstrates in serving all people fairly. I trust that Prestige Motors will live up to that standard going forward. Outside in the parking lot, as James admired his new Range Rover, Prince William placed a hand on his shoulder. James, I hope today has helped restore some faith in the idea that service still matters in this country. More than you know, Your Highness. Thank you for reminding me that dignity isn't something that can be taken away by someone else's prejudices. As Prince William's car pulled away, James sat in his new vehicle, still processing the extraordinary turn his life had taken in just 24 hours. Yesterday he had been dismissed and humiliated. Today he had been vindicated and honored. More importantly, he had been reminded that true worth comes not from what we own, but from how we treat others and how we serve something greater than ourselves. Starting the engine, James smiled as he thought about driving home. Tomorrow he would begin the next chapter of his civilian life, but he would never forget the lesson that respect, once earned through service and character, should never be conditional on someone else's limited understanding of worth.